I have observed that there are some people who always go for easy choice in life. They always choose something which is very convenient, very easy for them. They don't go for hard choices. But there are some other people who go for hard choices. They go for a struggle. And those people who choose that struggle, they become stronger with time. So, for example, not everyone is going for this examination, which is considered to be a very difficult exam. Not everyone goes for this choice. Not everyone clears it. So, those who are taking up challenges, going for those hard choices, they become strong. And in case there is any kind of disaster, any kind of hard time, this strong person will always be ready to tackle that. Whereas, what will happen with that person who did not go for that tough choice? He or she might not survive any kind of disaster. That's why this quote says that do not pray for an easy life, pray for strength to endure a difficult one. Okay, so with this quote, let's start our daily news analysis for today. My name is Yogesh Kottavar, and today I've chosen 5 articles for you from The Hindu and Indian Express. These 5 articles are very important from exam perspective and from your development of perspective towards these issues. Now, the first article of the day. The Constitution still thrives. Let it show India the way. This article has been written by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, and it clearly talks about the struggle of India's constitution. See, it's been 75 years. Today we are celebrating Constitution Day, and we are going to analyze the struggle of India's constitution. Have we succeeded in what we wanted to or not? This is where we are going to deal. The second article, legal issues in Sambal. Recently we saw some violence in Uttar Pradesh. Here one mosque is in news and court had ordered something. So we'll understand what is this issue, why this issue is erupting again and again, and we'll specifically focus on the legal matter. The third article is related to Atal Innovation Mission. Now this is a flagship program of government brought by Niti Aayog, and government is very much interested in spending more amount on this particular scheme. So important, we'll discuss this. The fourth article, after climate talks, now we are talking about bringing a treaty to curb plastic pollution. Plastic pollution is a big issue. So here we'll discuss that angle. And the fifth article is this one. Supreme Court has said that this socialist and secular word which is there in our constitution's preamble, it is correct. We are upholding it, and we are not going to remove these terms from the constitution. Now we had already discussed this part in our earlier DNAs. So right now we'll be discussing only 4 articles. You'll get the link in the comment box related to this 5th article, which you can watch anytime. Okay. Now, let's start with our first article of the day related to the Constitution of India. Now, here what matters to us is to know the core principles of India's Constitution and the core challenges it is facing at present. The topic is important for prelims as well as mains. Specifically for mains, it becomes highly important. In GS paper 2, the Constitution, evolution of Constitution, everything is discussed in detail, right? So, topic is important. Now look at this previous year question. Do you think that Constitution of India does not accept principle of strict separation of powers? Rather, it is based on principles of checks and balances. So the question is focusing on one of the core segment of our constitution. So similarly, there can be a question on the core values or principles of constitution, which we'll discuss now. So this is the constitution. Why we are discussing? I said today we are celebrating Constitution Day. On 26 November 1949, the Constitution of India was adopted. Now this constitution has completed 75 years. So it becomes highly important, and even UPSC is very much interested in asking questions whenever something completes 50 years or 75 years or let's say 100 years. So becomes important. Now please understand, the constitution is very important, especially with respect to India. Why? Because in any other country, there is constitution. There is constitution which shows who will have which power. Means there will be central government who will be having this much of power, there will be Supreme Court, High Court. That power structure is usually clarified in the constitutions. But in case of India, our constitution is very special. The reason being, India would not have survived if we would not have this constitution. That means our existence itself depends on constitution. Let's say in any other country, if you remove the constitution, if you bring some other type of constitution, that may not lead to the partition of that country. That may not lead to bifurcation of that country. But if you remove this constitution, there is hardly any chance that India will survive. This is the theoretical setup brought in with respect to Indian constitution. So when we are celebrating 75 years and we are saying that we are the world's largest democracy, then all the credit goes to our constitution. And the interesting thing about India's constitution is that it is not a static document. It's not like in 1949 people have wrote this constitution and now we are following it just as it is. No, we have different mechanisms. For example, we can amend the constitution. So with changing times, we can change the provisions of the constitution. Then Supreme Court comes up with different interpretations of the constitution and the interpretation might change with time. So that's why we call our constitution as a living document. It is a living document, just like a living organism which grows with time. Similarly, our constitution also grows. So this is very interesting thing about our constitution. Now, we are interested in the core principles of our constitution. See, India's constitution is said to be world's largest constitution. So this big. And I am saying if we have to just tell what this constitution actually wants in 3 or 4 words or keywords, the answer is these are the 4 core principles: bringing justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. So I can say when constitution makers came together to write one constitution for a newborn country, what was their ultimate objective? What did they want from this constitution? They wanted to build a society, a new society, which will have justice. That means earlier there was no justice at all, maybe. So if you go to the British era, there was no justice. Yes, you can say politically we did not have power. Not every citizen of the country had power to vote in the elections. So there was no justice. Liberty, you can think of. Liberty means we are talking about freedom. Freedom. So here, if you look at the preamble, these terms are clearly mentioned: justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. Justice has also been described in terms of social, economic, and political. Liberty has been described in terms of liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, etc. Similarly, all of these provisions. Now, this you anyway read in your static books. Here we'll understand, have we succeeded in bringing something concrete related to these principles? Means we said now that we brought this constitution so that we can bring this thing in our society. Have we succeeded? Now this is the part we are going to discuss. First, let's start with justice. You all understand what do we mean by justice, or you understand what is injustice. Opposite to that, it is justice. Now, justice is divided into 3 types: social justice, economic justice, political justice. If I talk about social justice or in the society, do you see justice? So go back in history, what we used to observe. There used to be a very rigid society where caste discrimination used to take place, where caste oppression used to take place. That upper varna or upper caste people used to dominate and oppress the lower caste people. But now what we did to bring justice, we have provided affirmative action. For example, one of the affirmative action is your reservation policy. So through reservation, you have tried to bring back justice instead of that injustice which was taking place historically in India. Then another example is Prevention of Atrocities Act. So this actually empowers, through this act, the lower caste people get some protection through law, wherein the upper caste people cannot oppress them. So somewhere we have tried to bring some balance in the society instead of an injustice based society, right? So yes, have we succeeded? Not completely succeeded, but here our actions are visible that yes, we have taken some actions. Then economic justice. In terms of economy, do you see that everyone is getting what he or she is supposed to get? The answer is somewhat no, not completely. For example, in India, males and females do not get the equal pay for the same work. If they are doing the same work, they will not get paid in the same manner. Someone will get more, someone will get less. So it's not completely there, but government has taken some actions to bring in that economic justice. For example, initially government brought land reforms. They started distributing land with those who were not having any land as such. Then we brought this minimum wages act. Many state governments are already implementing these acts. So at least some minimum amount should be there as a salary to people. Then we have many welfare programs just like this Manrega. And there are so many welfare policies which are going on. These are just examples which show that we are trying to bring economic justice. And then political justice. Politically, we are trying to make our society just. So earlier I said that not everyone had right to vote, but now do we have? Yes, if you are 18 plus, you will certainly get voter ID. You can vote in the elections. We have universal adult suffrage. So this was not present earlier. After constitution, we brought this. So if we look at all these things, it seems that yes, we have successfully or we are successfully working towards this objective of social, economic and political justice. Right? Now similarly, let's talk about liberty. Liberty, we talk about the freedom or our fundamental rights. If you see, more or less our fundamental rights which focus on the freedoms, that is part of liberty. So have we worked on that? Yes, certainly. We already have brought fundamental rights. Then we have some Supreme Court judgments wherein court has expanded our fundamental rights. For example, earlier we had only Article 21 which said right to life and personal liberty. But Supreme Court said you will also get right to privacy. Now this was not mentioned in the constitution. But through this judgment, Puttaswamy judgment, we see our freedoms are getting expanded with time. So yes, we are moving ahead with this objective. Then there are some legal safeguards mentioned in the constitution itself. For example, we have Article 32. Article 32 says that you will have the remedy in case something wrong happens to you. Your fundamental right is violated. In that case, you can directly reach out to Supreme Court using this Article 32. In case government of India, that is the executive, is taking any wrong action towards you. Let's say government has come up with a bulldozer and destroyed your home. This is an arbitrary action, a wrong action by the government. Should not have done that. So in that case, you can directly reach out to judiciary. This right is provided under Article 32. And this right itself shows that we want to protect liberty. We want to bring liberty in our society. So yes, this is a success from our side, we can say. Then what about equality principle? Do we have equality in India? Well, not completely, but have we done something? So look at this. To bring some equal opportunity in the society, we have brought some laws. For example, this Hindu Succession Act. This act tried to bring in equality in terms of succession. Let's say, for example, there is a family and the parents have died or the father has died. After that, the property has to be divided. Then right now with this particular act, it is equally divided among all the members. So even females will be getting the equal share. So this shows that we are moving with this idea of equality. Then India is known for being a traditional society. We have caste hierarchies, upper caste, lower caste. What we did, we tried to bring in some equality. So initially, through the constitution itself, we said we are abolishing untouchability completely. Then we brought reservation, through which this imbalance we tried to bring in with some equilibrium or balance. So if you look at all these mechanisms, it seems yes, we have successfully or we are working towards the goal of equality. Three are done. Now the fourth. Fourth is fraternity. The national unity part. You see, we talk about fraternity. Fraternity means we talk about the brotherhood. That I feel like you are my brother. All the Indians are my brothers and sisters. This feeling is called as fraternity. Have we worked towards bringing this fraternity feeling? Yes. For example, we have in India the principle of secularism which is being followed. When you allow secularism, when you say that the state will not follow any religion, then what you are doing, you are saying that all the people are same, we are going to live together, will not give priority to one. So here we are promoting national unity. Then by government gives universal education, universal healthcare, this Ayushman Bharat scheme. Through this, government is also showing that we all are part of the same nation. That's why there is a universal scheme being brought. So this is how we are saying that somewhere we are succeeding or somewhere we are going towards our core objective of constitution. Now Dr. B.R. Ambedkar had given a warning related to the constitution when constitution was enacted. So on 26 January 1950, at that point of time, he said that we are bringing political democracy in India. With this constitution, what we are bringing is a political democracy. But we are not bringing social or economic democracy. And this is not a good combination as such. Now, what do we mean by that? See, in India, earlier we said we did not have right to vote. Democracy, the term itself says that demo means people. Krasi means Kratos means rule. That when people rule, people make their own law, people implement it, people adjudicate it, people have the power. That is democracy. When we say political democracy, that means in political sphere, people's will is important. So for example, when you get right to vote and every person has equal voting power, then we are saying we have got political democracy. So do we have? Yes, we have this political democracy. But when we say social democracy, that means socially also everyone is equal. Is it the reality? The answer is no. In India, right now, the caste divisions still exist. Upper caste, lower caste still exist. Remove caste, you can think about the class also. Right now, we have rich class, middle class, and the lower class. So these divisions are existing in society, so we do not have social equality. Or in terms of economy also, we don't have economic equality. So overall, we are trying to say that if you have a combination wherein we have political democracy but not have social or economic democracy, then even this political democracy will be completely destroyed, will get collapsed completely. This is what Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was warning. Second thing what he said in the speech was that there is a danger of hero worship in India. See, we Indians are very much interested in looking at heroes. For example, a politician comes up, we start considering him or her as a hero. You start worshipping them. And if people in a democracy go for hero worship, then Dr. Ambedkar says this is a sure short road to dictatorship. Whenever people will become mad about one politician or one person and they worship him, then the country will turn into a dictatorship. This is his warning. Now, what he said specifically about this liberty, equality, and fraternity, these three terms, he said that all three exist together. One cannot exist without the other. For example, liberty without equality. That means you have given people liberty, all the freedoms are there, but everyone is not equal. What will happen? Only the most powerful person or the powerful ones will utilize those freedoms, and the one who is underprivileged, who is not that powerful, that person cannot utilize that freedom. So this will go wrong. Equality without liberty. Everyone is equal, but there is no freedom. So Chinese example you can take. So here what will happen? You will not have any freedom. You all are equal, but no freedom, no personal freedom. And what about fraternity? Even if you have liberty, equality, but you don't have fraternity, means people do not feel that they are brothers and sisters. In that society, whenever you bring any law, you bring in anything, for that you need some police officer, someone to enforce it. People will not accept any rule on their own because they don't feel that they belong to the same country. If there is no feeling that we are the same people, we are brothers and sisters, so people will become very much rude towards governance. They will not accept the rule and everything becomes useless. This liberty equality becomes useless. Okay, now this is the warning he gave. Now, right now we are facing some challenges. We're talking about constitution, and we are saying that this constitution, which has completed 75 years, although we are moving towards our constitutional goal, we are facing some challenges. One of the challenges, the erosion of liberty. Liberty being core principle, that is getting removed with time. For example, many times government goes for censorship of media. Many times government uses this sedition law against people. Many times we have seen misuse of such laws. Many times people even go for hate speech. All these cases show that the principle of liberty is getting eroded. It is getting removed from our society to some extent. This is a challenge for us. Second, we said equality is a principle, but right now we are observing inequality is increasing. Specifically, after the year 1991, when we brought this LPG reforms in India, after that, India had become one of the fastest growing economy. But one challenge we started from that time onwards is that the inequality started rising very rapidly. So right now, if you see in economic terms, our inequality is continuously increasing. Rich is becoming very rich, poor is becoming very poor. So this case is there. As far as social part is concerned, the caste angle, gender inequality, all that exists in India right now. So this is a challenge to our constitution. Then fraternity is under threat. We do not, right now, nowadays, we are not feeling like we are brothers and sisters because of communalism. Communalism is a very modern ideology, we can say, wherein politically it is tried to create differences between two different communities. Two different communities used to live together earlier, but now there is some animosity. There is a feeling of hatred towards one another which is being created through communalism. So this is a threat for our country, our constitution. And fourth is parliamentary dysfunction. Nowadays, or maybe in last few years, we have observed this very keenly that many a times the legislature or parliament, they go for passing a law without proper discussion or proper debate. Now, just because if in case there is a party who has got complete majority in the parliament or the state legislature, they can do it. They should not have done this, but they can go for it, wherein they'll just vote and they'll go ahead with passing a bill without proper debate and discussion. Now this is completely against the principle of parliamentary democracy. We expect that when you bring a bill there should be a proper discussion, but that is not happening. There is lack of meaningful debate. All these are core challenges faced by our constitution right now. There are so many challenges also, but these are the core ones we can see. And now, if we have these challenges, certainly we have to deal with each and every challenge right now as a solution, as a way forward. To deal with them, the first solution that we can give is reinforcing our constitutional values. See, constitutional values, when we say values, it means anything that is very important to you. For example, for me, being honest can be important, right? That can be a value for me. But there are politicians for whom power is more important. Money is more important than being honest, than being a person of integrity. So when we say we should be driven by constitutional values, we are saying every person in India, whether you are citizen, normal citizen, or a politician or a public servant, you should be driven by constitutional values. So in your day-to-day life also you follow these values. Which values? The same values. Justice, equality, fraternity, all these values. They should drive you. Then you should strengthen the institutions. So for example, we have Election Commission of India. If we bring power, if we give power to these institutions, they become strong, then our democracy will sustain. Even if there is a majoritarian government, even if there is communalism or any kind of disastrous situation, that can be sustained if you have very strong institutional setup, right? Then third, you can address all these problems related to liberty, equality and fraternity, which we discussed over here. All of these needs to be dealt properly. For example, as far as this economic inequality is concerned, government should take some actions to reduce that inequality. So similarly, other actions are required. And at last, the parliamentary functioning has to be made proper. It has to be very much functioning parliament and not just a running parliament. Okay, so this is the way forward for this. We can say on this Constitution Day, if we just focus on solving these issues, address these problems, our democracy is going to sustain for eternity or for a very long time. Okay, I hope you understand this article. Now, time for a question. The question is, how has Indian Constitution upheld the principles of justice, equality, liberty and fraternity in the last 75 years? Discuss the key challenges it faces in the present context. See, when you are giving the introduction, you can talk about Indian Constitution, or you can say 75 years have been completed, or you can talk about the values in our Constitution specifically. Or you can even say that Constitution of India is the cornerstone of the nation. Okay? Then in the body part, talk about these particular principles specifically and what we have done and the challenges also. So here you mention justice, each justice part, and mention the challenge. Now there can be one format wherein you can mention challenges separately, or you can mention over here directly too. So here you will mention all these challenges related to these principles, and in conclusion you can say that what we need is to focus more on constitutional values. The morality should be constitutional morality, which is driven by constitutional values. Bring in some governance which is inclusive and focus on institutions. Clear? So this is all about the first article of the day. Okay. Now the time for second article. Yeah. So second article is related to Uttar Pradesh. Now recently we got a news from Uttar Pradesh that there is some violence going on in one of the place. The name of that place is Sambal. So we want to know what is that violence, why this is happening. And this is important for you from prelims as well as mains perspective. There is an act which becomes important for you to study. First, look at this question. Communalism arises either due to power struggle or relative deprivation. Argue by giving suitable illustrations. Now, one of the illustration or example could be the case of this Sambal, which we are going to discuss right now. Okay. So, what's the issue? The issue is termed as Sambal Mosque case, or we can say one case related to some kind of a property dispute or land dispute. Now, what's happening? See, you must have heard about Ayodhya Babri issue. Then you must have heard about Gyanvapi Masjid issue, or you must have heard about Mathura issue. These all are very similar issues wherein there is a mosque, or you call it masjid, which exists at one particular location. Now this mosque obviously belongs to Muslim community, but there are some other people from other community, let's say Hindu. They are claiming this land. They are saying that this land does not belong to Muslims, rather it belongs to Hindus. Why? Because earlier or originally there used to be a temple at this location. But later on that temple was demolished, destroyed, and at its place a mosque was built. And this is wrong. This is being said by this community. So this is the core issue in almost all of these cases. As far as Ayodhya case is concerned, that is already resolved by the Supreme Court. But this Gyanvapi and Mathura case, these are going on. And right now we are hearing about a similar kind of case from this Sambal area of Uttar Pradesh. Now what happened exactly? The similar case, the Hindu community or some petitioner from Hindu community went to a court, a local court in Uttar Pradesh, and said that here we have a mosque in Sambal, and we are saying that here earlier used to be a temple, Sri Harihara temple, and this temple belonged to Lord Kalki. So this temple was made for Lord Kalki. Lord Kalki is supposed to be the reincarnation of Lord Vishnu. So there is a long story or a consideration that right now the Kali Yuga is going on, and this Kali Yuga will be ended and Satyug will be started by Lord Kalki. So in Hindu scriptures, there is a significance given to Lord Kalki. And it is being claimed that this temple itself, the Sri Harihara temple, was made by Lord Vishwakarma. So the point is, there was a temple. But when Muslim invasion took place in India, specifically when Babur invaded in the year 1526, after this battle of Panipat, after that we saw that this temple was destroyed and a mosque was built over here. Now, right now, when local court heard this petition, they ordered a survey of this mosque. They said that go and check whether we get some kind of evidence or not. So that survey was ordered, and when a team went to this particular location, we saw a fight, a fight between the local people and the police officials. After that, the situation became very intense. Violence took place. Government has said that we are banning internet, schools, and all. So the situation is very intense over here. Now look at the similar cases which are already going on with the court. So let's say, for example, this Gyan Vakpi mosque issue, which is from Varanasi. So here also similar issue is going on, and this issue is right now with Supreme Court. Court has already ordered a survey over here, but court has said that you cannot change the religious character of this particular place. So if it is a mosque, if it is a masjid, you can't make it temple now. Even if we get any evidence, we are not going to change the religious character of this particular place. It will remain as it is. The second case is related to Shahi Eidgah Mosque of Mathura. Similar case, and right now this is with local courts. It has not reached to Supreme Court, and they are considering all the claims. So the cases are going on. Now we want to discuss this particular act because this act becomes important for all of these cases. The name of this act is Places of Worship Act 1991. So when PV Narasimha Rao was Prime Minister, at that time he felt that in India the communal harmony is getting disturbed, and for that he thought we should bring some law. So if you remember that Babri Masjid issue took place, Babri Ram Janmabhoomi Ayodhya dispute which we call it. After that incident, government took this action to bring in this particular act. Government said that if we bring this act, there will be some communal harmony. There will not be new cases just like this Ayodhya issue. So what government said in this, that the act specifies a particular date. The date is August 15, 1947, our Independence Day. On this particular date, whichever religious place is there in India, it will continue as it is, will not change the character of that religious institution. That means before August 15, 1947, if there was a mosque at a particular location, now you cannot convert and make it a temple or Gurudwara. Or let's say there was a church over here, you can't make that church now temple or a mosque. It will remain as it was on August 15, 1947. Now this is specifically said by this act. The act also said that now there will not be any new legal suits. You cannot file any legal claim against any such place now. And there were some pleas or there were some cases which were already there with the court which were pending. So through this act, all these pending cases were cancelled. So the attempt was to bring in some communal harmony. Now interestingly, in this act, there are some exceptions given. The first exception is given to Ayodhya Babri issue. Why? Because Ayodhya Babri issue was already being considered by Supreme Court. So the matter was sub judice. When the matter is sub judice, the government usually does not take any action. So this was given exception. Then we have this Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act 1958. Under this act, we provide a list of monuments which are to be protected by the government, which are to be protected by Archaeological Survey of India. So this act specifically said, this Places of Worship Act said that our act will not be applicable to any kind of ancient monument or protected monument as such. Okay, so exemption to this. And third, it said if there is any settled dispute, then also it will be given some exception. Now the point is, as far as this Sambal Mosque case is concerned or these cases are concerned, More or less, they are talking about their places of worship. They want to change the religious character. They want to make it what it was earlier. But it is not possible with this Act, Places of Worship Act. And right now, Supreme Court is already considering some petitions. Almost four petitions are already there with the court, which is challenging the law itself. This Places of Worship Act is being completely challenged. So court is considering that too. So that case is parallelly going on. So we will wait for the court to provide us with the clarity on this issue. What will happen with this particular act? Then only we'll get the final conclusion for this particular issue. Okay. Now look at this question. Which of the following statements regarding Places of Worship Act are correct? The Act prohibits any change in the religious character of a place of worship in India from what it was on August 15, 1947. Absolutely true. This is what we said. The Babri Masjid Ram Janmabhoomi dispute is specifically excluded from Act's provision as it was under judicial consideration when the Act was passed. Absolutely true. And third, the Act applies to all disputes, including those related to archaeological sites protected under the Ancient Monuments Act 1958. No, we said that this will not be applicable to these monuments. So, third statement is wrong, and the answer is 1 and 2, that is D. Clear? Done. Now, the next article. The next article is related to Atal Innovation Mission. You must have heard about this mission many a times. Right now it is in news because government is saying this is a very good mission. This is a very good scheme. Now we will spend some more amount and launch it as Atal Innovation Mission 2.0. So let's see what is this mission specifically. Look at this previous year question first. Atal Innovation Mission is set up under which of the following? Very easy question. Very easy question. Okay, now you will get the answer anyway. So see, the background of the story is that if you look at what Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee used to say, that our aim should be to make India a global R&D hub, research and development hub. Right now, what Prime Minister Narendra Modi or the government of this time is focusing on is to bring in innovation and entrepreneurship in India. Whatever young minds we have a very substantial young population. And if we can bring innovation from this population, then India can grow. India can really become an R&D hub. So it was decided that we'll bring one scheme, Atal Innovation Mission. And this scheme was brought by Niti Aayog. That is the answer for your previous year question. So Niti Aayog brought this scheme and they have successfully run this scheme. And now government is saying we'll add extra budget by 2028. We'll provide 2,750 crore rupees and make it this Atal Innovation Mission 2.0. Now, first of all, what all is part of this particular scheme? Now, there are 5 different elements which are part of Atal Innovation Mission, in short AIMM. The first part is Atal Tinkering Labs. Now, you can think of it like this. Some labs or some kind of infrastructure is being set up at school level, wherein our young children or young people can do some experiments and make something, innovate something, create a product. For that, they require infrastructure. So these Atal Tinkering Labs, these are being created at school level or at community level. Second is Atal or established incubation center. Atal Incubation Center. What is an incubation center? See, here first you created one product. Did all these experiments and you created a product. Now let's say you want to become an entrepreneur. You're also building a product. Now you want to become part of the market as an entrepreneur. You want to come up. But these young minds are not that experienced. They require some guidance, some mentorship, some funding also is required. All that will be provided through this Atal Incubation Centers. So such centers will be there at some localities. Let's say you have an engineering college. There will be an incubation center established. So there they can get all this guidance, support, all this environment to build a startup. Everything will be provided here, right? So innovation is being promoted, entrepreneurship is being promoted. Then third, you have Atal New India Challenge. Now this is very interesting aspect of it. Government thought that if these innovative minds can come up with solutions for our major problems, whatever real world problems are there, if these young minds can bring in some solutions through their innovations for these problems, it would be great. So government said that through this Atal New India Challenge, you should focus on some key areas to solve the issues in those areas. Let's say, for example, in agriculture, if there is a problem, if you could solve through your product, that would be great. So government will provide you funding and all those support which is required. So all these are those important focus areas: water and sanitation, housing, electric mobility, power, energy, railways, education, health, etc., etc. Okay, this is Atal New India Challenge. Then Atal Research and Innovation for small enterprises. So we have MSMEs, small enterprises. To bring in some research element, to bring in innovation in this MSME specifically, this part of the Atal Innovation Program is working. So specifically for MSME. And the last part is Atal Community Innovation Center. We see that in India there are some areas which are underserved or underdeveloped. For example, you go to Ladakh, you go to northeastern part of India, you look at the aspirational districts in India. These are areas which are very less developed. So if we can bring in innovation in these areas by bringing some infrastructure or giving funding and all that, that would be great. So this is how they have brought this Atal Innovation Mission, right? Now we are talking about Atal AIM 2.0. Now this 2.0, what would be part of this? First of all, whatever we were doing in the first, we will continue that. But here we will bring some new elements. For example, we see that whenever we are building this infrastructure and all, sometimes there is language problem. Students many a time speak vernacular language. So there is language barrier. So government decided that we will build 30 vernacular innovation centers. So on those innovation centers, vernacular language will be used. So this is a great step. Then as far as these underserved areas are concerned, underdeveloped areas are concerned, those will be focused more. We call this frontier program of AIM 2.0, right? Then we'll focus on deep tech. So right now we talk about artificial intelligence, robotics, nanotechnology, etc. All this is part of the deep tech and that will be focused. If you can bring in some innovation in this field, that is great. And then state innovation mission. So right now this is being done from central level. So they are saying state level also you can bring in your own mission. Just like we have Atal Innovation Mission, you can bring in SIM, that is State Innovation Mission. Some kind of support will be provided by NITI Aayog or central government, because state government knows the local demand or local necessities, they can bring in a good program. So this is the idea of AIM 2.0. Clear? Now look at this question. Atal Innovation Mission aims to promote grassroots innovation by establishing Atal Tinkering Labs in schools and community centers across India. Yes, absolutely true. AIM 2.0 includes programs like Frontier Program, Deep Tech Reactor to address regional disparities and support research-driven startups. Yes, that is also true. So C, both 1 and 2 is the right answer. Okay. Now, the time for last article of the day. Now, let's check if we have any comment. Nothing specific. Okay. So, the time for the fourth article. So, in the last few months or let's say last few days, you must be hearing this news related to climate change or some COP meeting is going on. So, that news has become very common. But now we are talking about plastic pollution rather than climate change. Is plastic pollution a big problem? Certainly it is. That's why we are discussing. And this is important for you for prelims as well as mains GS paper 3. Now look at this previous year question. In India, extended producer responsibility was introduced as an important feature in which of the following? So all these rules or acts are given. You should know these things. This is factual part, but you should know as far as environment part is concerned. Now, let's say what is the news exactly. So recently, the representatives from different countries, almost 175 countries, they've decided that they are going to meet at a place in South Korea. The name of the place is Busan. And there they are going to discuss if they can bring in a global plastic treaty. The plan is to ban or to bring in some mechanism at the international level which will be binding, legally binding on all the countries. So if they are banning something, some kind of, let's say, single use plastic, they are banning at international level, every country will have to follow it. There will be legal binding treaty, just like we had this Paris climate agreement deal, that was also legally binding. Similar treaty for plastic pollution. This is the plan. It has not yet come up. We are saying it is being discussed. Now, who is discussing this global plastic treaty? Who is bringing this? So, it was initiated by the decision making body under UNEP. The name of that body, just a second. The name of that body is United Nations Environment Assembly. So, we have this United Nations Environment Program, UNEP. This is United Nations Environment Program. Under this program, we have United Nations Environment Assembly. This body is the decision making body under this particular framework. They will decide what is to be done. And this body initiated this global plastic treaty. So they are initiating, they are putting it forward. Once it is discussed, once every country is okay with it, then it will be finalized. And it is being said that by the end of this year, we are going to finalize this treaty. Now, what's the plan? What are the areas that are being negotiated by these representatives from all these countries? First of all, they are saying all the life cycle of a plastic should be considered. So, if a plastic is getting designed at a particular place, if we have to ban plastic, we have to start from that initial phase itself, from the place where it is getting designed, then it is distributed, then it is made into a different kind of product itself. So all these things, let's say you are using some kind of chemicals for making these plastics, everything needs to be regulated at the international level. So this is being said. Second, what about the management of waste? So we make use of plastic, then we throw it. Simply we throw it in the garbage box. What about that? So how we can manage that entire waste? So let's say you are eating wafers. That wafer is coming up in a packet which is made up of plastic. So the seller made it, the producer made it, give it to you. You ate the wafers and you have thrown the plastic. Now whose responsibility is it to collect that waste? This is being questioned, and now we are saying at the international level we should have a mechanism for this and legally binding. True. Now mostly we see this wastage problem specifically when we look at our oceans. Right now, whenever we come up with any study related to oceans around the world, we see that the plastic pollution is increasing a lot in the oceans or seas or rivers. So many times we see these images wherein there is some kind of an animal who is stuck with some kind of a plastic. So the ecosystem, marine ecosystem is getting destroyed because of the plastic pollution. If marine ecosystem can be destroyed, then entire ecosystem imbalance will be there. Even we cannot survive if such things are continuing. Then it is being discussed, can we bring in some financial mechanism? See, you want to reduce pollution, plastic pollution, but to reduce that, you will need some funding. Specifically, if you are a developing country, you don't have that much money to collect even this plastic waste. You need extra funding. So can developed countries provide some money to developing countries? All this will be negotiated. And at last, once we bring in this treaty, it should be implemented. Someone should monitor whether you are doing it or not. Let's say it was decided there will be some legal binding. You should comply to it. So that implementation and monitoring part will be there. All this will be discussed. Now, look at the present trend. Why do we actually need a global plastic treaty as such? Because we are seeing that the plastic pollution is increasing in a substantial way. Now I can show you with data. If you see the data of the year 1950, in the entire world, in the entire world, we had only 2 million ton of plastic. Only 2 million ton. But you see the difference. By 2017, it became 348 million tons. And by the year 2040, we are saying this will be doubled and become 696 million tons. So the plastic pollution is increasing exponentially. The word exponentially is also not enough to describe this phenomenon, right? Then environmentally, it is very much damaging. We said that the marine ecosystem is getting destroyed. 57% of this waste, plastic pollution or plastic waste, is usually burnt by people. And when you burn, the gases which will come out, they are also polluting your air. So again, this is damaging. Third is our global north-south divide. In northern part of the world, because there are developed countries, usually they have a good mechanism for waste collection. They'll collect the waste, the dry garbage will be collected separately, the wet garbage will be collected separately, plastic will be collected separately, then they can go for recycling and all. But when you look at the global south, the countries are very poor. They are developing countries or underdeveloped countries. They don't have the capacity to bring in such mechanisms. So they don't have a good waste management system. This is the reality. Now, as far as India is concerned, we are also developing countries, so we don't have good mechanism as such. Right now, we are contributor of 20% of global plastic pollution. This is something we should be ashamed of. 43% of unmanaged waste in India, which becomes a debris, nothing, a garbage. 57% is burned in open. Now, this is the data which you can directly quote in your answers to show that the plastic pollution issue is a very serious issue, right? Now, as far as our policy actions are concerned, what we have done till now. So, we have brought in some rules wherein we are trying to work or trying to regulate this pollution. For example, we brought plastic waste management rules wherein government said that if you are manufacturing plastic, you have to collect it, you have to recycle it. In 2022, government said we are banning single use plastic. Nobody will use it. So this was brought in. Government then said that you should go for some alternatives, some sustainable alternatives, like you use these cloth bags or you can use this bamboo straw. All this can be used. And then government brought this extended producer responsibility. For example, if someone is producing plastic, it is his or her responsibility, that manufacturer's responsibility, to collect that waste, right? So all these are the actions taken by government. But right now at the international level, when we are trying to bring in a treaty, we are facing some challenges. For example, not every country wants to bring such a treaty. Those countries who are having some petrochemical industries, they are not interested. Why? Petrochemical industry produces plastic. So let's say crude oil is brought in, you're making diesel out of it, you're making petrol out of it. From the same industry, you will be bringing some kind of plastic also. You'll make plastic from the same. So India, USA, China, all these countries have petrochemical industries. They are saying we will be impacted economically, so we don't want this global treaty as such, or we don't want such a strong treaty as such. Then you ask the developing countries to transition towards some alternatives. So that transition is costly. Who is going to pay? That is something being questioned. And developed countries, especially after Trump coming into picture, Trump doesn't like to pay any money to developing countries. So again, there will be interests which are not common. Then scientific complexity is there. Sometimes one country will say that we should ban a particular chemical. This is leading to the pollution and all. But other country will say no, it should not be done. So there is some scientific problem, scientific complexity. And at last, this global north-south divide, which I have already discussed. So overall, all these are challenges. Now, in future, we will see whether the treaty comes into picture or some clashes will take place between countries and nothing happens. We don't know. We have to see that. Okay, so this is our fourth article of the day. As far as fifth article is concerned, I told you we had already covered that issue related to Supreme Court upholding socialist and secular. So we had taken two different DNAs. In one, we had discussed this secularism issue, and another in which we discussed socialism in detail. So you can go for these DNA. Links will be provided in the comment box. So you can go with this. So this is how I can say we have completed our daily news analysis for today. Thank you so much.